Hello everybody! Today we're going to practice some watercolor techniques. In that bag that I sent home with you of weird supplies, there's a handout in there that looks like this. It has circles with a bunch of writing on it. You're going to need that piece of paper, and there were two pieces of watercolor paper about the same size as this handout. Grab one of those. You're also going to need, there was a little plastic cup in there. Find your plastic cup. And you're going to have to search around the house for a couple of things. You're going to need some salt. I have kosher salt in my kitchen. Any kind of salt you have. Table salt is great. A crayon. Here's a couple crayons. You just need one. Doesn't matter what color it is. If you can't find crayons, you don't have any in your house, grab a candle. Even if it's a big fat candle, any kind of candle. Just something that's waxy. And you're going to need a little piece of cardboard. This I got off the back of a pad of paper, but you could, I don't know, do you have any Amazon boxes laying around? Just any kind of little piece of cardboard, no big deal. And, oh yeah, you're going to need a sponge. And you guys, I put sponges in those bags. They're kind of gross looking, but I had to cut my magic eraser at home. I don't really have a sponge here. I have this. So, and that's going to work fine. Get one of those and get yourself a nice big bowl of clean water. And I gave you guys an extra brush in there too. You might want to have that extra brush handy because the brushes that come with your watercolors, these little guys, they're tiny. They're okay for some things, but usually you need a bigger brush for watercolor. And then the watercolor sets. And this is mine, and yours should look like this too. And once you open it up, I went ahead and I already put water in there before you even get started. Drop fresh water in each one of these. Make sure it's fresh, clean water. Don't use dirty water, especially in your yellow, because it'll change your yellow. It'll make it look icky. So we're going to get that going. So first things first, we need to, the other thing you need is a piece of paper towel or a cleaning cloth. This is a cleaning cloth. It's really ugly, but it works great for what I'm going to do. And when I'm done, I'll just throw it in the wash, so I'm not wasting any paper towels right now. Or use paper towel or napkin, but you'll need something, whatever you got handy. So the first thing we're going to do, we are going to take our piece of paper and our little cup, and we're going to trace the smaller part of the cup. And we need to get 12 circles on our paper. So line it up. They don't have to be perfect. Just put them on there. And trace your cup just like that, and you're going to keep going 11 more times so that you have your paper that looks like this. So go ahead and do that, and then on your handout each circle has a label. We have wet and wet, graduated wash, sponge printing, watercolor resist, and so on and so forth. You're going to want to go ahead and label your sheet the same way, and then we're going to practice all these techniques really quick. And once you're done with this, you're gonna be so surprised. You had no idea you could do so much with watercolor. Watercolor is really neat because you can do all these techniques, and now that you know about them, you'll be able to use them in your project. Okay, so the first one here says wet and wet, so we're going to dip our brush in water. We're going to use really clean water, and we're going to make a big bubble of water on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come and dip our brush in some of the colors. Maybe I'll take a little yellow, and I'm going to just drop it. I love this. Drop it on there and let it do its thing. I'm not going to stir it. I'm not going to put my brush back in. I am going to grab another color though, maybe pink, a little pink, and I'm going to drop that on there too, maybe over here. And each time I'm cleaning my brush and my water in between, and then I'm going to take my wet brush, and in between colors I blot it on my cloth, and ooh, that looks cool. Let me go ahead and grab, I feel like I want to put a little purple on there. Purple's over here. It's kind of hard to see because it's so dark, but that actually is the purple. I'm going to just drop a little purple right there. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have, but it's done. So I got a little purple on there too. Oh, sometimes I take it too far. It would have been great just with the two, but you live and you learn. So I'm cleaning off my brush. I'm drying it off. Now the next one says WC resist. That's a watercolor resist. So when you use the crayon, you know how when you color Easter eggs sometimes and you use the crayon on the Easter egg and then you drop it in the dye and you can see the crayon around the dye? It's basically the same thing. So you could take your crayon and scribble a little design on there, whatever you want. I really did scribble that time, didn't I? And I'm going to take another color and maybe I'll do, maybe I'll do green. So I'm going to drop a little green on there. And look at that. Paint doesn't stick to the crayon. Crayon makes it resist. So I've got green and orange. So kind of cool. So something to think about with a project. Even wash, that's just exactly what it says. It's just an even wash. So I'll pick a color. I don't know, I've got a lot of orange today. Maybe I'll go ahead and take orange. And that's just taking your brush and going across and making it nice and even. And it'll dry nice and even. Right? Very simple. You would use that for big areas like in a landscape, maybe your sky, your background, or big object that you want it just to be one big solid color. The next one here is glazing, and glazing is to help you develop a color. Typically, like these colors right now look so nice and bright, but once they dry, watercolor is famous for drying and it looks really pale. So you're doing this painting with your paint and you're all excited, you're like, look at these colors, and then it dries and maybe a little disappointed. You're like, oh, okay, I thought it was lighter than that. So glazing helps you develop that color. You put on a layer. I guess I'll just glaze with yellow. And when that yellow dries, it'll be pale. So this one is kind of a circle you'll have to keep coming back to, because every time it dries, you're going to put another layer of that color on there. And you'll get something nice and rich, a nice dark rich color. Let's see, let's go down to our next one here. I'm going to move the paints over. And this one says graduated wash. So that's like an ombre effect. Like say it starts really dark and then fades to a really lighter color. So I feel like I want to use blue for that. So I'm going to start here, dip my brush in there, and then I'm going to keep going. And I might take some of that off of there and put a little bit more water on my brush and come back in. So I want it dark at the top, and then I want it really light at the bottom. Oh boy, focus. Okay, and then I want it really pale down here. And that's what a graduated wash is. Okay, this next one calls for salt. Oh, and you notice I'm not painting perfect in these circles. It doesn't matter. This is just practicing techniques. It's totally okay to have it look like that. Let's see. Salts. Let's grab a couple really cool colors. And this time I am going to limit myself to 2 instead of getting greedy like I did on the wet and wet. Put some green down here. And maybe I'll put purple next to it. Put some purple. And then I'm going to take my salts. Put some in my hand. Oop, I got a lot of salt there. And sprinkle it on there. And you'll see what happens once it dries. Once it dries later, oh, I got salt in my graduated wash. Oh, that's okay. You'll see what happens. Sometimes the color, the pigment flees from where the salt is at. You get a really neat effect. And then once it dries, you can brush that salt off so you don't have that chunky stuff on there. Oh, dry brush. That's kind of a fun one. Make sure your brush is like super, super dry. I'm using my towel and I'm trying to get all of the dampness out of there. So my brush is really dry, and then I'm going to take a color. I'll probably take green for this, and I'll show you why in a second. So, oh, you can't see me working. Okay, so I got the green on there, and I'm going to blot the extra off of there. There'll still be green in my brush, and I'm going to take it and go like that. And that dry brush gives you, looks like it could be green grass, or maybe you're painting like animal fur. or somebody's eyelashes. A lot of uses for a dry brush technique. So that's dry brush. Now the next one is cardboard. And so cardboard, I've got my little piece of cardboard. I'm going to dip it in the paint. You could do a couple of different things with this. I mean, for one thing with cardboard, you can take it and put it down and drag it, and that's pretty neat. You get that nice, maybe you're going to do a picture with a bunch of buildings in there, and then you can also just use the side, kind of a stamping technique, whatever shape that you have. So a couple different things you can do with that cardboard, kind of neat. And then we've got sponge painting down here, and sponge painting is, I'm sure you've done this before. I know a lot of kids use the sponges in class like this. And I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to dip it in a little bit of paint. I've got a little paint on there, and go ahead and now, oh, I got a neat shape out of that. It almost looks like a smiley face. Depending how you hold your sponge. I remember sponge painting was really popular for painting walls with two different colors. It's supposed to look like faux marble, or I don't know. So that's kind of neat. And it gives you a nice texture. Oh, this other one, masking fluid. I didn't grab anything for that. You could probably use like a piece of tape. Put your tape on there, paint over it, and then peel the tape off. I don't have masking fluid. If you had rubber cement, you could put rubber cement on there too, paint over that, and then peel it off. I can kind of show you what that means with my cardboard. Let's say that was a piece of tape. And I'm going to go ahead and brush. I'll use red this time. I'm going to brush over and around. So when you use a masking fluid or masking tape or masking whatever, it covers an area for you to leave it white. That's a nice idea if you were doing two different kinds of techniques, or just really bold colors. You can go back in and get the other ones later. Okay, this next one, scratch. What do we want to scratch? Let's see, what color? I'll put pink on there. I like the pink. So pink, put my pink on there, and then you take your brush and you can scratch out certain things with the end of your brush if you need to. And that might be a nice technique for hair, or trees, or in the distance, yeah, like bushes in a landscape. Could be for all kinds of things. Just use your imagination. Oh, now I just spread it. And this last one here says blotting. And blotting, I think I'm going to use black for that. I put a little black down. Haven't used any black yet. Kind of fun. Blotting, then you're going to take your towel or your cleaning cloth or whatever it is that you have here. You're going to go back and you're going to blot. So you're actually going to remove some of the... Look at that. Doesn't that look neat? I mean, that could be nice for if you were doing a landscape with some bushes in the back, so you've got that nice black, and then go back over later once it dries and put some green paint on there. That's the cool thing about watercolor. It's very translucent, and you paint with it in layers. So that would be the whole sheet. So for today, you just have fun. And you can make up your own too. You might think of other ones that you want to do, and if you do, put it on the side. Here's one that I did before. I practiced this before. And actually on this masking, I used Elmer's glue, which kind of didn't make sense to me because masking is pulling it off. But you could put glue on there too, and it will resist, but you won't be able to paint underneath there. You'll have white areas. Just depends. So that's our little sample sheet. So have fun. Thank you.